Redditors who were raised in cults, when was the first time you realized something was wrong? I was raised in a very strict manner by Church of Christ parents in an extremely legalistic Southern Baptist church. I was extremely sheltered, allowed only one movie, maybe, and 1 hour of TV a week, only Christian movies, books, TV shows, radio, etc. I never interacted with kids outside of the church bubble, as my parents started a Christian school so that I wouldn't have to go to the evil public school and be brainwashed. For me, it was when my pastor and my youth pastor took me aside during a church camp and said they were worried about my salvation as I hadn't led anyone in the sinner's prayer and didn't go on visitation, which was door knocking on Sunday afternoons to talk about Jesus. Instead, I played harp as part of the instrumental group every Sunday and Wednesday and sang in the choir when I wasn't playing, which practiced during the same time as visitation. They basically told me that since I showed most of the other fruits of the Spirit like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, etc. They thought I was Christian, but since I openly boycotted visitation and hadn't borne any of the bringing new sheep into the flock fruit by leading anyone in the sinner's prayer, I couldn't possibly be a full Christian, and they wanted me to work on that. I was 15. I never interacted with non-Christians and was part of the instrumental group in choir which practiced during visitation. How could I do that if everyone I knew was already Christian? Thoughtful face. It led to some serious questions, but I couldn't really do anything until I escaped to college 3 years later. When it came time for me to leave for my own mental health, I became the villain, and when confiding in my college tutor, she was horrified to learn even a fraction of what I had grown up with. She was the main encouragement I needed to get the F out, when I did. When I realized that the doors to the 13-story former hotel building we were all living in was locked and you had to sign out to leave. No one, from children to adults, could leave without an explanation to where they were going and when they'd be back. Edit, group operated under 2 names. IBLP, Institute for Basic Life Principles. This was their outreach label where they would go to churches and show this seminar to bring new gullible people into the fold. ATI, Advanced Training Institute, was for the people that actually wanted in deep and consisted of an entire homeschool curriculum to make sure your kids got brainwashed correctly. They masqueraded as just another Baptist sect, but it went way deeper. My family was highly involved for years, but the year we lived at their training center was actually horrifying. Strictly controlled what was allowed and /out, surveillance for everything. Sad part is most of the families that lived there were essentially slave labor that worked for the ministry and were given free room and board. Many of them had nowhere else to go and were trapped even if they wanted to leave. Web link. Ex-Jehovah's Witness here. My first hint that something was wrong was the amount of control exerted in our day-to-day lives. No beards, no long hair for men, no tattoos or piercings, no shirts with edgy artwork like band shirts or shirts with skulls, no entertainment they don't approve of, etc. Other witnesses are trained to report you to the elders if you're not following their guidelines, such as if you have a position of respect in the congregation but someone sees that you have a rated R movie, they'll report you to the elders and you could lose your position in good standing, which will change the way the congregation treats you. What really tipped it over the edge for me though was their doctrine that all non-witnesses deserve to die at Armageddon by God's hand, simply for not being witnesses. Armageddon is supposed to be urgently imminent, and over 99.9% of the world will die just because they're not witnesses. That didn't sit right with me. I had been working in retail for some time, and the people I worked with were every bit as intelligent, compassionate, and loving as any witness I knew. Eventually, these issues became too great for me to bear, and I committed the ultimate sin, researching information that criticizes the religion. We were taught to be terrified of anything that remotely criticizes the religion and its leaders. I finally pushed against that fear and did the research. Woke up instantly. Realized why they taught us to fear apostate information so much. It's because they know it's all true, and they don't want us to see it. When I was 5 and the leader, who claimed to receive messages directly from God, accused me of doing something I knew I had not done. When the elders told me that I could no longer speak to my younger sister anymore because she was in bad standing with the organization. She's the only family I have left. They made her out to be this monster just because she wasn't actively going to church. That's when the glass shattered for me. Update: Thank you so much for the awards and the wholesome support. To answer, I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses and my sister and I are still close. She's doing great things for herself and I do not regret my decision at all. Don't let someone else make decisions for your life, you'll be much happier. After watching The Day After in the 80s, I asked my mom if we knew the nukes were coming, who would she rather spend her last moments with, me or the cult leader? She'd choose him. I came up with my own survival plan after that. I was going to skateboard to safety. Edit, punctuation. Wow. First post to ever blow up in awards. Do I get entry to secret Reddit now? When my parents told me they'd let me die rather than allow me to get certain medical procedures. Former Jehovah's Witness 2. The first time I realized something was wrong was when a huge core belief changed in 1995. The end will come before the generation that saw the events of 1914 died, changed too. Well, it's changed 7 times since then. I was confused and it didn't compute that my entire life's beliefs changed overnight. I struggled on a while until shortly after my then husband beat the crap out of me and for some reason he called the elders over to help and the elders told me be a better wife, so he doesn't get angry. I was done then. Done. Edit. Deleted an unnecessary sentence. Not in a cult per se, but was in one of those evangelical megachurches. Started as a nice corner church, the piety was genuine. I don't think that the pastor planned the whole thing, he seemed a genuine preacher until the church grew exponentially. Like went from a few hundred members to 15,000 in less than 2 years. Then his main focus was maintaining, entertaining, the masses, which drove him to do stupid things. Many weird things started happening. Especially, one day he had a revelation that the congregation needs to expand further and members have to, I am serious, give out all the gold they were wearing. I know a lady that got into serious trouble with her husband because she gave away her gold wedding band. My last straw was when he promoted himself to apostle and renamed himself Paul. Apostle Paul. Okay. I wasn't supposed to make friends with any other kids unless they went to our church. I'm surprised that there isn't any Scientology stories, because it's one of the worst cults I know. When I learned that, if a woman was going to be raped, it would be better for her to kill herself than risk having her blood lineage tainted. When my brother started asking, politely, how our religion was founded and how our family got involved in generally just questions about life, they don't believe in evolution or kissing before marriage. And they would bite his head off about it at age 11. It made me realize they were being defensive because they had no answers. If you can't explain why you're in a religion, you get the F out. I got punished for my own sexual assault. I was victim blamed. The abuser was twice my age, I was mid-teens. I was forced to repent. For what? I am not sure, as they wouldn't answer that question. As I got older and looked back, I realized that everything they told me was a lie. If you do everything you're supposed to be blessed. If you break the rules, you have challenges/obstacles/lessons and must repent. But if Jesus dies for my sins, why do I have to repent? And what am I repenting for? I didn't consent to any of that. Nor could I from a legal standpoint. The only obvious answer was that it was all bullcrap. Then years later, a widely publicized case with similar circumstances became international news. And the victim's clergy person stood up on CNN and said she was forgiven. Forgiven. For being raped. I had noped out years before, but when I saw that particular press conference I had to get therapy to deal with all that rage. Gah. Exactly 1 year after I was disfellowshipped as a Jehovah's Witness. Having friends outside the cult really helped me out, and my brother also left with me too. We both do not speak to my parents anymore. It's been approx 5 years now. When I was told doing independent research on the doctrine would lead to being shunned by my friends and family. I.e. fall in line, bitch. My aunt and uncle joined a radical sect of the Seventh-day Adventists. Seventh-day Adventists don't allow dancing, cards, chess, checkers and most board games. They can't go to plays, or partake in anything that isn't harmless, but it isn't clear what is holy and what is profane. That means that sports and even watching TV are really unacceptable unless somehow religiously aligned. My cousins were fascinating. Their parents joined the global mission arm and became missionaries, professional, and lived in Argentina, Thailand, and Africa. My cousins would come to North America every so often to see family, but were so bizarre because they had no cultural references. They were raised in a cloistered community with little to no outside influence, so they didn't know music, arts, or pop culture. They had never heard most music or even seen a Gilbert and Sullivan play. They would come to us and talk about the church, but there was no way me or my other cousins would give up our lives to live in some quasi-monastic world. Their parents abandoned the church after a number of years and became mainliners, but for a good 7 years, my cousins were like people who had been unfrozen from a glacier and trying to navigate life as interlopers. F that. Sorry someone ever thought that would be okay to say. Your mom tried her best, this life isn't easy. That's an absolutely disgusting thing to say to someone. Hope you're doing good now. When my youth group leader said that telling poor people about Jesus was more important than feeding them or housing them. Recently. I'm 41 years old and kind of had the blindfold pulled that a lot of the evangelical organizations I've worked with in my life have been cults. In my teens we went to a church that told you who you could hang out with, what you could watch on TV, what movies you could see, and picked who within the church you could be friends with. 99% of the leaders told you how to run your family but had kids who were either teenage pregnancies or a baby daddy, illiterate homeschoolers, high school dropouts or drug addicts. There were stretches where we went to church 2 times a day, even during the week. They encouraged people to get their kids out of school for revival meetings. Homeschoolers postponed their classes. It was consuming. They started arranged marriages, with several families petitioning my parents for me to marry their daughters. They almost went for it but stopped because it seemed weird. As I moved off to college, they recommended a megachurch they got a lot of their messages and such from. This church did more of the same. They encouraged high school seniors to put off college a year and pay the church $3,000 for an opportunity to work there for a year for an internship program that guaranteed ministry work experience. This program micromanaged your life to the hour, included intense hazing for new members that routinely sent students to the hospital and stacked them all into student housing so that you could focus more on the program. Our re-teacher was off sick and the substitute teacher told us the same Bible story from the week before but with a completely different ending. This is going to be one of those bot-narrated videos on YouTube. When I was the one who got shunned for defending a child from a pedophile. Not exactly a cult, but it felt that way. Growing up, I went to the church of my religion, where the sermons were always conducted in the language of my heritage. The Sunday school teachers regularly disparaged other religions and ethnicities. During the week, my parents sent me to an after-school program to learn the language of my heritage, during which the other students regularly trashed other ethnicities, races, religions, etc. They only dated other people of my heritage. In college, the people of my heritage only spoke that language to each other, and looked down on me because I wanted to speak English. Couldn't stand any of this. Ended up marrying outside of my religion and stopped talking to about 99% of the people in my church. I was raised with the belief that if I followed all the rules and was a good person, I'd feel a confirmation of everything. 7-year-old me was well aware that I had yet to feel it, and that was one of the many things that led to becoming depressed at the age of 12. I kept having questions that I had no answer for other than God works in mysterious ways. Eventually, I found a YouTube channel where the person told about how they left the religion, and I realized my whole life was a lie and that I no longer had to try and believe in something that never worked for me. Nothing is wrong. Our supreme leader knows all and loves us all equally. Sure, he only has sex with the cute teenage girls, but that is his right and responsibility as the one true representative of God. May his seed be strong and plentiful. Well, where to start? There were always so many things I couldn't grasp about what I was taught growing up. How was the world supposed to be so young? How did they fit so many animals on such a small boat? How come this faith stuff never seemed to really work? Why didn't I have autonomy over my own decisions? How come my parents and the head minister didn't appear to have to follow some of the rules that I did? How was everyone so sure that this was the correct theology to be so invested into? I think the exact moments that really did it for me was when my abusive father-in-law-to-be as well as my abusive grandfather were both using their book to justify their abusive and manipulative behavior. And then the time my grandfather prophesied that I used my brain too much and needed to shut it off. Those were the catalysts I needed to abandon ship completely and seek actual truth rather than just believe and trust whatever their book said without answers or proper, convincing evidence and proof. I could not be more happy to finally be out of that terrible time and place. Raised in a cult in Ireland known as Dippers, Cooneites, it was absolutely crazy, and my family are all members and had to disown me and shun me when I came out as gay. The other members within the family discussed it and decided it was necessary to strip me of any inheritance and any relationship with my family and other members of our religion. Probably when I was fairly young, maybe 6 to 8 years old. We'd wake up early on Sundays and bow to a picture of the founder. I was pretty sure my outside friends never had to do that, but since most of my friends were inside the church and did it too, I didn't think too much on it. Dad: yeah, but this theory is better because people had pet dinosaurs. Me at 8: oh yeah, but like I already learned that didn't happen. Dad: let's talk again after this 8-part lecture series on why the Earth is 6k years old. I'm going to grab canned goods and a 50 pounds bag of rice from the basement. Me: I've never seen where my friends' parents keep their pallets of rice bags. Edit: I effing hate mobile formatting. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Readers' new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.